Let me deal with the word in quotation marks before anything else, because if I don't, the rest of this doesn't hold up. You cannot return an RV. There is no return counter at any dealership in America. There is no cooling off period on a vehicle purchase, no 3-day window, no receipt to bring back. Once you sign and take delivery, that sale is final. Nobody publishes a list of most returned RVs because returns are not a thing that happens. So what does the word actually mean here? There is one situation in the federal record that functions like a return, and it's arguably worse than one. It's a designation NHTSA uses on recall filings, and it reads, Remedy Under Development. Those 3 words mean something very specific. The manufacturer has identified a defect. They have filed it with the federal government. They have accepted that the vehicle is not safe as built, and they do not have a repair. What the owner receives in that situation is not a fix and not a refund. It's an interim notification letter, a document whose entire purpose is to explain the danger and tell you that a second letter will follow whenever a solution exists. No date, no procedure. Keep the unit, keep making the payment, and wait. And understand why that document exists at all, because it's not the manufacturer being evasive. Federal rules require a manufacturer to notify owners of a safety defect within a set window of discovering it, whether or not a repair has been engineered. So, the interim letter is the law functioning correctly. It gets the warning to you fast rather than holding it back until a fix is ready. The uncomfortable part isn't the letter. It's what the letter reveals. That the gap between finding these problems and solving them is long enough to need its own paperwork. That's the closest thing to a returned RV that exists in America. And in 2026, the list of them is long enough to build this video out of. I'm ranking these 12 by 1 rule. What the owner is told to do while they wait. At the bottom, nothing. Drive it normally, a label is coming in the mail. At the top, the federal advisory is do not drive it at all, and nobody knows how to repair it. Stay for number 1, because it can start a fire while parked. Number 12. Winnebago on the certification label. NHTSA ID 26V052000. The certification label on certain trailers may not list the gross axle weight rating. Not the wrong figure, no figure. The one number telling you what each axle is legally rated to carry was absent. Without it, an owner can unintentionally overload the trailer, raising crash risk. Free replacement label mailed to owners. Instruction while waiting, none. Number 11. Winnebago on tire size. NHTSA ID 26V3-85000. Winnebago Recall 207. The tire information label lists the wrong tire, putting the unit out of compliance with federal motor vehicle safety. Standard 110. Using that label, an owner could install the wrong size replacement tires. Free labels, letters expected mid-July 2026. And notice this one has a delayed fuse. The harm doesn't arrive when you buy the RV. It arrives whenever you next buy tires, possibly years later, from a shop that will read your label and believe it. Now, if you're thinking about buying an RV, or you're already stuck in one, I put together something called the RV Buyer's Blueprint. Real ownership costs, how to read the financing paper before you sign it, the inspection checklist that catches water damage, and how to get out if you're upside down. The link is below this video. Alright, let's keep going. Number 10. Grand Design Lineage Motorhomes, 2025 and 2026. 683 units. NHTSA ID 26V058000. The seat base on the driver and front passenger seats may have been improperly tightened, allowing the base to come loose. That puts the vehicle out of compliance with FMVSS 207 seating systems. Dealers inspect and tighten free of charge. This one climbs above the labels for a simple reason. A seat that isn't properly anchored matters at exactly one moment, and that moment is a collision. Number 9. Keystone Coleman Travel Trailers, 2026. Keystone Recall, 26 to 479. The bed brackets may not be secured to a stud, and the bed can fall unexpectedly. Read the mechanism there. Not a bracket that failed, a bracket that was fastened to something other than structure. That's an assembly error, and the remedy is straightforward. Dealers reinstall the brackets into a stud, free of charge. Number 8. Airstream Classic, 2026 and Interstate 2025. The MaxAir fan circuit board may experience a thermal event, increasing the risk of fire and personal injury. Dealers replace the board with a corrected version free of charge, with letters expected in late August 2026. I'm including Airstream deliberately, and not to pick on them. Airstream is the most trusted badge in the American RV market and sells at a large premium to everything around it. A supplied circuit board doesn't care about any of that. Premium price buys you construction and resale value. It does not buy you out of the component supply chain. Number 7. The Ford F-53 and F-59 motorhome chassis, 2025 and 2026. This one isn't an RV brand at all, which is the point. The F-53 is the chassis under a very large share of America's gas Class A motorhomes. The front axle hub assembly may be missing the spindle nut and the cotter pin. If the vehicle is driven without that spindle nut, the filing describes degradation in the brake system's integrity, potentially resulting in rotor fracture, damage to the brake caliper bracket, or loss of the front wheel. Affected units were built between June 27th and December 18th of 2025. Dealers inspect and replace as necessary, free of charge, with interim letters going out in late April 2026. A missing nut and a missing pin on the front wheel of a vehicle that can weigh over 20,000 pounds. And this entry illustrates something buyers routinely miss about motorhomes. You are buying two products from two companies. The coach came from the RV manufacturer. The chassis under it came from Ford. Neither one is responsible for the other's defects, and neither one's recall history shows up when you look at the others. A spotless record from your coach builder tells you nothing at all about the chassis you're sitting on. Number 6. Grand Design Lineage on the roof. Recall M910053. The adhesive securing the solar panels to the roof may fail, allowing the panels to detach. A detached panel becomes a road hazard for everyone behind you. And here is where this list changes character, because the remedy for this one is still under development. Grand Design filed the defect and sent interim letters in March 2026 explaining the safety risk, with a second notice promised once a fix exists. Everything from here up is in that category. Filed, acknowledged, unfixed. Number 5. Winnebago on the rear roof cap. NHTSAID26V089000, Winnebago Recall 202. The rear roof cap aero fence trim may loosen and detach while driving. Remedy under development, with letters expected in April 2026. 2 consecutive entries. 2 different manufacturers. Same failure category. A piece of the roof coming off in traffic, with no repair procedure available at the time of filing. That's not a coincidence of bad luck. That's what happens when large exterior components get attached with adhesive and trim fasteners on a roof that flexes. Number 4. Forest River, East to West College Avenue, 2026, and Entrada 2026 and 2027. NHTSAID26. Fee 249000. Forest River Recall 5042048. The rear tire may contact the fender under loading and jounce. A tire that contacts the body may be damaged, and a compromised tire can fail, potentially leading to loss of vehicle control and a crash. Remedy under development. Letters expected end of May 2026. Sit with what that defect actually is. It isn't a bad part, it's a clearance problem. The geometry between the tire and the body is wrong when the trailer is loaded and the suspension compresses. You cannot swap a component to fix geometry. That's why there was no remedy on the filing date, and it's why this one sits at number 4. Number 3. Storyteller Overland GX5 Hilt, 2024 through 2026. NHTSA ID 26V392000. The secondary alternator pulley may fail, resulting in a loss of power brakes and power steering. Both, simultaneously. The filing spells out the consequence. Loss of braking assist increases the distance required to stop, and loss of steering assist increases the effort required to control the vehicle, and both raise crash risk. Remedy under development. Owner letters expected July 23, 2026. That is the single worst failure mode on this list from a pure physics standpoint. An unpowered brake pedal and an unpowered steering wheel arriving at the same instant in a heavy vehicle with no repair available. Number 2. Grand Design, recall 910054 on the axles. An axle that moves out of position, which the filing ties directly to loss of vehicle control and increased crash risk. Remedy still under development. Interim letters explaining the safety risk mailed in March 2026, with another notice promised when a remedy becomes available. Now here's the line in that filing that puts it at number 2, and it's the most important sentence in this entire video. This recall supersedes NHTSA recalls 23V490 and 24V193. Read that again. There was a recall in 2023. There was another recall in 2024. This is the third federal campaign on the same problem, and the third one arrived without a remedy. 2 previous attempted fixes did not resolve it. That's not a manufacturing defect anymore. Somewhere upstream, in design or specification, something is wrong that 3 rounds of federal filings have not closed. Number 1. Grand Design Solitude and Lineage 2026 with a Thermaheat tank pad, 150 units. NHTSA ID 26V057000. Grand Design, recall 910,055 and M 910,056. The water tank heating pad may experience high resistance and fail. High resistance in a heating element means heat where heat is not supposed to be, and the filing states it can overheat and increase the risk of fire, including when parked. The remedy is under development, and this campaign carries a do not drive advisory. That is the entire premise of this video in one filing. A 2026 model year unit sold new that the manufacturer has told the federal government is a fire risk sitting still, for which no repair exists and which owners were advised not to drive. Interim letters went out March 11, 2026, promising a second letter whenever a fix is found. You cannot return it. You cannot repair it because there is nothing to repair it with. You cannot safely tow it. And unless you paid cash, the payment is still due every month it sits there. That is as close as the American RV market gets to a returned vehicle. So step back and look at the shape of the 12. 6 of them have remedies and get fixed at the manufacturer's expense. The system worked in those 6. Somebody found the defect, filed it, and paid to correct it. The top 6 do not or did not at the time of filing. And look at the failure categories in that group. A roof panel detaching, roof trim detaching, tire to body clearance under load, an alternator pulley taking out brakes and steering together, an axle on its 3rd recall, a heating element that can ignite while parked. Not one of those is a cheap appliance or a bad label. They're structure, geometry, and chassis systems, the things that are hardest to fix after the unit is built, which is exactly why the remedy column was empty. That's the actual finding in this data, and it's more useful than any single entry. A defect in a supplied component has an obvious path to resolution. Source a corrected part, ship it to dealers, swap it. A defect in how the unit was designed or assembled has no such path. You cannot ship a replacement for wrong geometry. You cannot mail a dealer a corrected clearance, which means the severity of an RV recall is predicted less by how dangerous it sounds, and more by whether the fix is a part or a redesign. And there's one more pattern in this list that I'm not going to walk past. 4 of the 12 are grand design, including the top 2 and 3 of the 4 unfixed entries. This is also the manufacturer with an open federal investigation. Reference PE24029, covering 55,887 Momentum and Solitude fifth wheels for excessive frame flex. A separate matter, still unresolved, where the company and its frame supplier have publicly disagreed in federal filings about what's even wrong. I'll be fair about the reason that's happening. Grand Design files aggressively. A company that reports defects early and often will always look worse on a list built from filings than a company that reports slowly, and the transparent manufacturer is not the dangerous one. But 4 of 12, with the 2 worst entries and a super session on its 3rd attempt, is a volume of filings that means something on its own. The practical consequence for a buyer is narrow and specific. A recall database only tells you what has already been reported. It will not tell you about the unit you're standing in front of, and it will not tell you whether the remedy for your VIN actually exists yet. So before you sign anything on a new RV, run the VIN and read the remedy column, not just the recall count. A campaign with a completed remedy is a scheduling problem. A campaign that says remedy under development is a unit nobody currently knows how to repair. And you would be buying it anyway with a payment book and no way to give it back.